Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm doing well, Vanessa. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? Happy New Year, everyone. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Darlet. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Chen. I'm doing well, Camila. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? Shout out to Floretta. Floretta, I hope you're feeling better. Oh my goodness. Are you doing okay, Floretta? Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for joining. Shout out to Clara. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Shinobu. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Asa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Aline. Shout out to Irene. Shout out to Asa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Henley. Shout out to Aurora. Shout out to Holly. Shout out to Margot. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Mylia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Ankit. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Tessa. Shout out to Regina. Shout out to Zeb. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Audrey. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Avery. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Jaira. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Abel. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to John. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jessica. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Neo. Shout out to Lorena. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to AJ. Shout out to Alexi. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to James. Shout out to Briley. Shout out to Shreya. Shout out to Zibu Siso. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Vic. Shout out to Maria Paula. Shout out to Shelby. Shout out to Genevieve. Or Genevieve. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Marjorie. Shout out to Naira. Shout out to Maria Andrea. Shout out to Josephine. Shout out to Rena. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to Ellie. Happy birthday. Shout out to Rachel. Shout out to Braxton. Shout out to Lacey. Shout out to Sadiel. Shout out to Yasmin Cruz. Happy New Year, everyone. Shout out to Arna. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Anastasia. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Dasha. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Nayara. Shout out to Chan. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Margot. Shout out to Valentina. Oh, I'm gonna put Valentina over here so it fits. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to Leia. Shout out to Sadir Molina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Arlen. Shout out to Embry. Shout out to Shakina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Arthur. Shout out to Vicky. Oops. Shout out to Ceci. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Aniket. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Lux. Shout out to Lupe. Shout out to Brinley. Or Brinley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jeremy. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Prince. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope this new year brings you a lot of joy, good health, and all your dreams or goals. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you, thank you. Also, thank you for your patience. I know I don't write fast, so I appreciate you and your patience. Shout out to Tenley. Shout out to Nadia. Shout out to Jameer. Shout out to Sophia Molina. Shout out to Daisy. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Rosie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lola. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Francine. Shout out to Leilani. Oopsie. I'm gonna write your name again. I messed up. I messed up right there. Shout out to Leilani. Shout out to Zyla. Shout out to Debini. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to, what was it? Alexia. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Yoonjin. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Ava. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Catalina. Shout out to Penny. If I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Miguel. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Alazy. Or Elize. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Leslie. Shout out to Bentley. Shout out to Martinez. Shout out to Haley. Oh, I already got Haley. Shout out to, do I have Henley? Shout out to Henley. Shout out to Stephanie. Shout out to Yuki. Shout out to Naima. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to Gunner. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Lamila. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mabel. Excuse me. Shout out to Yasmin. Shout out to Bonnie. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to William. Shout out to Lanaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mac. Shout out to Nazir. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Olga. Shout out to Destiny. Shout out to Carter. Shout out to Preston. Happy New Year. Shout out to Mahira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Gloria. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Anthony. Shout out to Lax. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Alexander. Shout out to Isla. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Kathy. Shout out to Edita. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sophie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Malone. Shout out to Nerea. Shout out to Sage. Shout out to Amiza. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Charlie. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for liking my channel. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Malachi. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Olga. Shout out to Yumi. Shout out to Samaya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Livia. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Naya. Shout out to Janessa. Shout out to Libby. Shout out to Aria. Excuse me. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Eleanor. Shout out to Shamuel. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Huraya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to John. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Paula. Shout out to Salo. Shout out to Uzi. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. Write your name down if I haven't gotten to you. Also, thank you for your patience. Shout out to Lennon. Shout out to Ryder. Shout out to Zeb. Shout out to Simone. Shout out to Anaya. Shout out to Thea. Shout out to Suhani. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Joanna. Shout out to Miley. Shout out to Kensley. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Beatrice. Shout out to Jude. Shout out to Harlow. Shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Shiloh. Or Shiloh. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bentley. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Dara. Or Dara. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Princess. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Michelle. Shout out to Geneva. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Jenna. Shout out to Emerson. Shout out to Lonnie. Or Lainey. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Dariana. Shout out to Phoenix. Shout out to Meadow. Shout out to Joel, or Joel. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Amelia. Whoopsie, messed up. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Lyra. Shout out to Stephanie. Shout out to Lizzie. Shout out to Kennedy. Shout out to Jocelyn. Shout out to M. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Evangeline. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Connor. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Janelle. Shout out to Lauren. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Kensley. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Ashlyn. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Zebu Cecil. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bonnie. Shout out to Delilah. Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to Des. Shout out to Tegan. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to John. Shout out to Mac. Shout out to Allie. Thank you so much for your patience. Shout out to Uni. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Daisy. Shout out to Milo. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Ariel. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Brandy. Shout out to Kensley. Shout out to Georgie. Shout out to Nor. Shout out to Colin. Shout out to Leslie. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Emery. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Denise. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Kay. Shout out to Nami. Shout out to Ender. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to these people On to the next page. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to your name. Thank you for your patience though. When the chat goes really fast, I can't keep up sometimes. So I appreciate your patience. Please write your name if I haven't gotten to you. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Reagan. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Delasia. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Rosie. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Andrew. Shout out to Michelle. Shout out to Mahi. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Grayson. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Perry. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Vera. Shout out to Tia. Shout out to Kensley. Shout out to Irayla. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Veda. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Orion. Shout out to Steph. Shout out to Nord. Shout out to Quinn. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Xavier. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to, is it Kiana? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Rowan. Shout out to Tatiana. Shout out to Maris. Shout out to Fatima. Shout out to Rakai. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Julia. Shout out to Jane. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Edward. Shout out to Shri. Shout out to Bonicia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Alexine. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Rael. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Jace. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Clara. Shout out to Inaya. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Sahara. Shout out to Juniper. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Anastasia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Carson. Shout out to Alyssa. Shout out to Hudson. Excuse me. Shout out to Allie. Shout out to Evie. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Staley, or Stiley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mason. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Itzel. Shout out to Skyla. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Annika. Shout out to Amy. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Marianis. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Burmette. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Janat. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Braxton. Shout out to Ansley. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Liliana. Shout out to Bailey. Shout out to Legend. Shout out to Atika. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Samara. Shout out to Val. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Pearl. Shout out to Emmy. Shout out to Jory. Shout out to Skylar. Thank you to the person that sent me the sticker or the I forget what they're called, the chats. Thank you so much. I didn't get to see who it was. But thank you for your support. Shout out to Zayden. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. I hope this new year brings you a lot of happiness and good health. And I hope you accomplish your goals or you reach your goals or dreams. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Zeb. Shout out to Sunday. Shout out to Nadia. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Vana. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Saucy. Shout out to Charlene. Shout out to Aurora. Shout out to Alfia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Arabella. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Mabry. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to James. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Villa. Shout out to Zeta. Shout out to King. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Paul. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Yunche. Sorry, my flowers look really bad. Shout out to Amelia. They're supposed to be either flowers or butterflies. I'm so sorry. Shout out to Olivia. And they end up just looking like squiggles. Shout out to Eileen. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Maximus. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Saya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Rishika. Shout out to Eliza. Shout out to Ceci. Shout out to Rise. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Karomi. Shout out to Ashira. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Edgar. Shout out to Jasper. Shout out to Diliani. Shout out to Joy. Shout out to Nelia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sebastian. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Mackenzie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Laura. Oh, I just put Laura. Shout out to Lowell. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Lexine. Shout out to Mary. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to you. The chat is going really fast. Shout out to Adeline. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Mateo. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to 11. Shout out to Reniel. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Avni. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Morgan. Shout out to Alexandra. Shout out to Kai. Shout out to Astrid. Shout out to John. Shout out to, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that the chat goes really fast. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Manha. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Maxine. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Remy. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Amber. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Channing. Shout out to Genevieve. Oh no, I forgot to spell it. Genevieve. Whoopsie, I messed up. Shout out to Genevieve. There we go. Shout out to Kenzie. Happy New Year, Avni. Shout out to Annika. Shout out to Zainab. Shout out to Alaska. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Nayeli. Shout out to Sailor. Shout out to Catalina. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Noreen. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Harmony. Shout out to Aria. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Haven. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Harleen. Shout out to Coco. Shout out to Nico. Shout out to Oscar. Shout out to Diva. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Elizabeth. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe if you want to support my channel. I live stream every day around the same time if you want to join in. Thank you so much for taking the time to write your name. I truly appreciate it. Have a happy new year. Wishing you all the best this new year. Take care. Bye. See you next time.